Let us put ourselves in the presence of the source of life, the source of light, and the source of love. What this means is that as we sit calmly, we can be aware of a presence that exhibits itself as our breathing, our capacity to think, the warmth that we feel in the body, and then all of the resources around us. Let us consider that the sun is such a resource, giving us life, radiating everywhere, responding, as it were, to the tilt of the Earth's axis, so that we are now fully in the spring. Weather is starting to warm up. The companion to the Earth, the moon, is having its influential effect on the Earth. These ancient eyes, if you will, of our universe have been there since the beginning of dawn. And the ancient people, thousands and thousands of years ago, saw the same sun and saw the same moon. We relate the presence of the moon to the mind itself. Every living entity, sun, moon, the stars, the whole galaxy in which we are present, the space, the air, all of these work in a rhythmic, cooperative way to establish life registered in the human body with a sense of individuality that says, I exist. Let us take this fact of existence and bring it down to its blissful base at the very root, like the root of a tree, unseen under the ground, and yet we know it's there, and we know that without it, the tree is unable to stand. No nourishment comes except from the root. Let us try to find our own root. So let us establish ourselves in this existent entity that we register as life. Let us also review all the goings on in the mental field, all the comings and goings from the day, all concerns that pop in, that visit us, all doubts, all temptations, all fears that arise as waves in the mind. Let us just observe them and see their comings and goings from a blissful, content, and peaceful base, the base of an unseen observer. Let us feel how this thought movement, this intelligence, this capacity to express itself in rhythm, capacity to express itself in design and in purpose. Let us understand this to be pure consciousness. Let us feel the presence then of this existence and consciousness as bliss, as positivity, Having felt now all around, inside and outside, this immortal presence that gives us a sense of peace away from all the disturbances of the day and all the disturbances in the mind that come and register themselves as past visitors coming to the present moment. Let us now consider all these factors in the motion of our breath. Every living being has a breath. Even the ocean seems to breathe by way of its tides. Let us feel how the whole universe seems to be exhaling and inhaling. Let us wish this whole universe and all the observable universe love and blessings, strength and beauty and goodness and love and harmony. Let all beings be blissful. Let all beings be peaceful. Let all beings be happy. So too the self-luminous bodies such as sun and stars, and the interspace between, the vast voids that separate these huge bodies, and the vast voids that separate every single atom. Let all be infused with the divinity that is inherently there. Now let us turn our mind to a holy sound. Let's try to feel the sound as the embodiment of a particular form and quality that we give to this fundamental being of existence and consciousness and bliss. If you do not have a special mantra or protecting thought, mentally repeat the sound symbol Om. Let us set you up with this vibration by my repeating this Om 3 times, and then you continue yourselves. Om. 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 We have entered into a period that Christians call Holy Week, a period of 7 days where we have the opportunity to meditate on one of the great waves that rose some 2,000 years ago. Yeshua, or Jesus, was known to be understood as an anointed one, some special entity that came to change the circumstances of his day and to impact a lesson and teaching of truth about a kingdom of heaven that is within. It began on Sunday last as a kind of scene where this great Messiah, this anointed one, gives an instruction to go and find a colt, a small donkey, in tune with some prophecy, Jewish prophecy of Zechariah, that such an entity, a great king, will enter into the great administrative capital of the day and religious capital, Jerusalem, putting cloaks on the back of this donkey that symbolizes humility, coming humbly without the trappings of a king or the airs and graces of a royal personage. That entity, that king, surrounded by followers, enters into Jerusalem and is greeted by hundreds and hundreds of people, all shouting, all greeting him as a kind of king savior. We can view the body as it sits as an 11-gated city, something like this city of Jerusalem. We know that that ancient city had a number of different gates for different purposes. In the same way as we sit, we can see that eyes, ears, nostrils, mouth can represent for us some gates that lead into a city. The navel can be added, as well as organ of procreation and evacuation, and then the royal entrance at the top of the skull. Let us, as we sit, feel the presence of an influx of this royal personage coming through the royal gateway at the top of the head. Let us feel it pervading from the head all the way down the body, entering into every limb, entering into every hand and digit, until we feel it in the toes. And we feel that it doesn't stop there. It goes beyond the borders and radiates through every pore of the skin. Let us now feel its energy from the toes all the way up, section by section, to the head once more. And let us feel that warm place at the top of the head that is vibrant and warm. Let us feel the warmth of the blood in the body, considering it to be a divine city arrived here on this earth for a certain purpose. Like an angel being selected from the divine realms in order to carry out some function here. And when the task is finished, to go back to the divine realm and be there in peace with our selected, chosen, most beloved ideal of the Supreme. Entering into this city that has all the highways and byways of any city, a pneumatic system to regulate the temperature, to energize the city, a heart that generates all the functions of a city and the traffic, a system that is able to bring in imports, waste disposal systems, collections and populations of cells, all functioning like a royal city. Now let us consider that the royal residence of the city is deep in the heart, in the most central position of the human body. If we can sink down deeply into all the various layers from the outside, compared to the story of Jesus entering into Jerusalem, all the goings on outside the city walls, impacting the city walls, all the cheers of the crowds are all external. But as in the city of Jerusalem, there is an inner temple, an inner sanctum sacred to everyone. In Jerusalem, it is housed on a mount that is in a high esteemed position. We can think of the heart as this solidly built temple. But like the Temple of Jerusalem, there are a number of courtyards. The most external courtyard is tied up with social comings and goings, just like the human body is. Interactions and bartering and trade of various kinds. But as we go into the inner sanctum, things become quieter. And there we find an attitude of worship. There we find a connectedness with the innermost sanctum. In the very center, the innermost courtyard. In the ancient times, only priests could go there. And even then, only those dedicated to praying and lighting incense. Let us invite ourselves into this inner sanctum where that invisible entity resides. Let us find the cool place of calmness deep down within, in the center of our own being, this Holy of Holies, divided by a golden curtain. And let us feel how the mists of incense derived from resins, exotic smells. Let us catch the atmosphere of that innermost sanctum. And let us pause there to observe the internal flame that sits. And this flame is of the form of our royal personage that sits in majesty, in serenity, in command by its presence, and like a lamp it is unflickering. Most lamps will flicker, but this inner entity remains ever steady, ever brilliant, ever shining. The whole city, the whole temple is only constructed for this, the resident of this entity. And this is the root and branch. This is the blissful base behind the city, within the city, within all cities, within all bodies, be they human bodies, be they bodies of sun and moon and stars, be they bodies of air, be they bodies of ground and earth, be they bodies of minerals, be they bodies of insects and worms, be they bodies of reptiles and mammals, be they the bodies of all the planets, be they the bodies of stirring galaxies. That same all-pervading entity sits glorious in its presence, glorious in its manifestation, glorious as a ruling entity, lending its pure consciousness everywhere. This is the source of life, and this is the source of light, and this is the source of love. There is no other than this. Let us not merely appreciate it. Let us find our own root and presence in it. Let us sink down deeply into its presence to become one with it, to retract everything into it until that alone stands. And when this entity stirs, it stirs as waves. Waves of different varieties and strengths, waves of different frequencies, waves of highs and lows, waves that interweave. these divine waves, inscrutable as they are, in a force field, each one having its field of electronic or electrical capacity or gravitational capacity or potentiality or radiation or electromagnetism itself or nuclear forces, all of these combining and recombining like great, great waves in a huge cosmic ocean that crystallizes and manifests itself as bodies, cities with 11 gates or more. This great inhaling and exhaling of the world is only one, looking like many. Let us ever be united with that one that sits as a flame unflickering, that is never born, that never changes, that never dies. That one manifests for you personally with face and arms and divine presence made from sheer love as that manifested form that you love the most. Molding itself and shaping itself into this supreme form, a representation of the entire form that we call the cosmos. For this has the individual form of our sweet lover that we can meditate on in the core of the heart. In expansion, it is the entire body that we call the universe. And when this universe departs, it alone remains. Its consciousness is unflickering, its existence itself, and it is pure bliss. And thou art that.